Hey everyone, welcome to this new workflow editing video. So this video is a companion to a article on the Topaz Learning Center about travel photography with some tips on how to get more, I guess, authentic and memorable travel photos. And the whole travel photography genre, I mean, as you can imagine, is pretty nebulous. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So I recommend reading that article. It's linked in the description below. But for now, I'm going to show you how I approached this particular photo that I took several years ago in Morocco. So you can see here, I took it back in 2017 with a Sony A7R Mark II and the Zeiss Bodice 18mm f2.8 lens. Now, you can see this is an alleyway, and I was just kind of standing kind of off to the side, nondescript, and you can see where I was standing was pretty dark, but I really liked the way it kind of lit up towards the end here. And what I was doing was I was just kind of waiting for some things to happen. Whenever someone would come by, I would take some photos. And so you can see here just the kind of evolution of the shots. So here's one photo, then the old lady gets out of frame, and then like this little kid walks through, or he's actually running through, and then another person, and this person mid-stride. So that's kind of what I do sometimes. Like I'll stake out a spot and I'll camp there, and I'll stay there long enough to where I'm unobtrusive. And I typically try to keep especially if it's kind of more along the lines of street photography with travel, I try to keep my profile pretty small. So like I don't have a big camera bag, I don't have a tripod, I don't have a big telephoto zoom lens. The Zeiss Bodice lens, it's a prime lens, it's pretty small, and I usually don't even use a neck strap. If I can avoid it. I just like to have the camera kind of hand holding it by my side, and when I'm ready, I'll pick it up and get my shots. So of these photos, this one I like, and I also like this one with the kid running through. Now, between the two also, I like the overall composition here, where this kind of the archway here looks more like it's centered better than this shot here. You can see I'm kind of at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I want to combine these two, and I'll use Photoshop to do that. So I'll select both of these images, I'll right click, I'll go to edit in, and then I'm going to select this option here called open as layers in Photoshop. And what that will do is it will take any highlighted images that you have in the grid view here, and it'll open them up in a single document in Photoshop, but it'll put each image on its own layer, which is actually really convenient. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so you can see here we are in Photoshop, and there are the two images we had selected. We have this top layer and this bottom layer. First thing I'm going to do is rename these. So I'll just call this one old woman, and I'll call this one young kid. Okay, so now we know what each layer is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the young kid layer on top, because that's going to be my operating layer. That's the layer I want to work with. But now what I need to do is mask the old lady in, right? This old woman. And so there's a great way to do this to properly align the layers. What I'm going to do is with this top layer selected, I'm going to change my blending mode by clicking on this drop-down menu right here. These are your blending modes. And I'm going to go to difference. Now what difference does is it basically creates this interesting pattern that allows you to see all of the differing pixels from the active layer and the layer below it. So if I take this move tool here and I start moving around, you can see that I'm moving the top layer, but I don't want to do that actually. So I'm going to undo that. I actually want to move the bottom layer. So I'm going to select that bottom layer, and I still have difference mode here selected. You can see here the difference blending mode, but I'm going to take the bottom layer, and now I'm going to position it. First, I'll position it just kind of right around here, and then I'm going to press Command or Control T to enter free transform mode. Let me zoom out here, and then I'm going to basically stretch out the canvas until, for the most part, I can get the archway to align. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you kind of want to get it around the same size. And you'll know it's aligned because you're going to have that minimal amount of that kind of brighter pixels. You can see the little boy here, he's not on the bottom layer, so that's why it's a lot brighter. But you can see the rest of the image, for the most part, is overlapped, and that's good. So now I'm going to click on this check mark here to commit that transform. I'll go back to the top layer and I'm going to change my blend mode back to normal. Now we have basically the two images kind of aligned. I'm going to go ahead and create a layer mask on the top layer. So with the top layer selected, I'm going to click on the layer mask icon, and then I'm going to go to the brush icon, or you can press B on your keyboard. Next, I'm going to make sure that black is the foreground color. So you can see here I have white in the foreground. If I press the X key on my keyboard, it'll put black on the foreground color. And then I'm going to start painting, and I'm going to start bringing the old lady into the frame. And I'm just kind of getting around here. Now we need to touch things up. And so to do that, I'm going to press the X key to go back to white. And remember, black reveals and white conceals. So we're going to be hiding the mask. We're going to be bringing back some of the original layer, or the top layer. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going here and making sure that I want this wooden board here, and you'll see me kind of switching back and forth. If you look at the colors here, I'm basically pressing the X and the X key rather, to go from black and white as my foreground color, depending on whether I want to restore some of the original layer. So I want kind of basically bring it right to her edge, because I don't want that halo effect around her. I want to have as clean of a mask as possible. And, for the purposes of the video, I'm kind of doing it a little bit more quick and dirty. If this were, a commercial project or something where I really needed to pay attention, I would have zoomed in and just gone painstakingly with the mask. But for the most part, we're getting kind of a nice sharp edge around her. And that's what I want. Is that sharp edge. And you can see it's a pretty straightforward mask. There's really not much to it. If you paint out, all you have to do, if you paint out an area that you want, all you have to do is just change the foreground color and bring it back. So that's basically all there is to it. It's pretty straightforward, like I said. And it's a lot of fun, because what we're doing is we're combining two images into a single frame. And because we went already ahead and did that alignment with using the difference blending mode, we were able to ensure that the woman was on the proper plane. She's not smaller than she should be, and she's not at a weird angle. She actually looks like she belongs in here. So that's good. Now that we're done, it was a pretty straightforward mask. What I want to do is create a new layer with these two layers. And to do that on the Mac, you're going to press Command Option Shift E. On Windows, it would be Control Alt Shift E. And what will happen is a new layer is created. And this layer is basically the combination of these two layers. So you can hide them, but you now have this combined layer. Now what I want to do is I just want to get rid of this little thing right here. So I'm going to take just a spot healing brush and just kind of draw right there. And Photoshop does a really nice job of getting rid of that. If you want, you can touch up other things just to make it a little bit cleaner. You can go kind of nuts with this, as you can imagine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rename this to merged layer. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a duplicate of this layer. So I'll right click on it and I'm going to go to duplicate layer. And I'm going to call this layer Topaz Photo AI. And I'm going to show you our what we've been working on. I'm really excited about this. We're going to be releasing it. So at the time of recording, probably in about a month from now. So we're still working on it. Just let's put that out there. It's still being improved before launch, but this is our newest app. It's called Topaz Photo AI. Let me show you how I'm going to use it here. And don't worry, this is just a short video. I will be creating a bunch of videos specifically on Topaz Photo AI as we launch. So you'll get a lot more detail soon. So I'm going to go to Filter, Topaz Labs, and then go to Topaz Photo AI. All right, so I'd like to welcome you to Topaz Photo AI. Again, this is a pre-release, but essentially Topaz Photo AI was built to be your autopilot for image quality. Our goal with this application is to be able to take any photo that you send to it, that you open up, and analyze it in a way that's even better than a human can analyze, specifically to correct for issues that affect the image quality. So in this case here right now, we've got things like noise reduction and sharpening and upscaling and face recovery. But we do it in a way, you can see up here, the image automatically detects whether there are faces. If there are low quality faces, it'll try to improve it. It'll detect what it thinks the most prominent subject is, as well as whether there is certain types of noise. So it'll differentiate between luminance noise and color noise. And it automatically will apply the right amount of noise reduction to the photo. You don't have to do anything. So just like this, if all it did was noise reduction, I'd be happy. Because I was hand holding at a higher ISO, and it is a very, very dark scene. So I'm happy for that. Now, of course, if you want, you can add other things. So for example, let's say I wanted to add a little bit of sharpening to the photo. Well, I can override the autopilot settings and just toggle sharpen on. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure that the sharpening is only applied to this area where the subject is detected, because I don't really want sharpening applied to the rest of the scene. I only want it applied here. So there's this little toggle here called subject only. I'm going to turn that on, and that's going to limit the sharpening to that's the area where detected subjects. And so if you click, you can see that it's a little bit soft over here, but when you let go, it's actually really nice and sharp. And we'll take a closer look when we get back into Photoshop. So what I'm going to do now is click on this Save to Photoshop button to return back, and it's going to write these changes to that Topaz Photo AI layer that I created. All right, so we are back in Photoshop. You can see we have our Topaz Photo AI layer. If I zoom in a bit, you can see that this is the sharpened image with the noise reduction. And if I turn it off, you can see things like, look at the texture in this rug that's hanging here and also on the wall. When you enable Sharpen AI, the textures just start to pop. And it also cleans up some of that noise that was affecting the darker parts of the image. Those are the things that, again, one of the things I'm really excited about Photo AI is that it'll basically do all of the heavy lifting for you without you having to do anything. You open your image up, it's going to analyze it, and it's going to apply meaningful improvements that it thinks will help bring the image quality to a better place. But if you want to overwrite with your own settings, let's say, like in my case, I wanted to add some more sharpening, you can do that. So now that we're done here, I want to bring it back to Lightroom so that we can finish it up with a little bit of some stylization. And that's the thing. The best part about Photo AI for me is these things have to be done. Noise reduction, sharpening, you have to do that. That's just the way it is. If your photo has noise, you have to apply noise reduction. If your photo is not as sharp as it should be, you have to address it. But those aren't fun things. That doesn't really differentiate you from any other photographer. So by using Photo AI, I'm able to kind of put that stuff off, let our AI models handle that quickly, and then it lets me focus on the creative side of the photo editing workflow, which is what I absolutely love. So we're going to save this and head back to Lightroom right now. All right, now that we are back in Lightroom, you can see here is our image that we've combined, and we've run through Topaz Photo AI to get that noise reduction and sharpening applied. Now we can have some fun with our image editing. So I'm going to go ahead here and do some basic tone correction, just to make it a little bit brighter, bring out the white point and open up the black point a little bit just so that it's not so dark. Next thing I'm going to do is, actually I want to fix the geometry just a tiny bit. So let's go to the crop tool here. I'm going to rotate it just a tiny bit because I felt like the horizon is just a little off right there. And then I'm going to go to geometry at the bottom, and I'm going to go to the vertical slider, and I'm going to basically straighten it out so that the vertical lines look like they're more vertical. And let's go to rotate and actually rotate it just a little bit there. And then we'll click on the constrain crop so that it automatically crops us in. So that looks better. You can see if we, you see how it's kind of tilting back and to the left. And so we were able to kind of fix that, which is great. All right. So with that done, let's go ahead and apply a nice little S-curve. I've shown this in many videos before, but basically what you're doing is in this parametric curve here, What you're going to do, I'm sorry, not a parametric curve, the point curve. This is the parametric curve. In the point curve, you're going to drop 3 points at these intersections. And this is your highlight. So we're going to bring that up a bit. These are your shadows. We'll bring that down to make them a little bit deeper. And then let's open up the midpoints. Now, because I want to give this a little bit of a vintage look, I'm going to take the black point, which is designated by this dot in the lower left corner, and I'm going to bring it straight up. Now watch, you see in the dark areas how it gets gray? So we just want a little bit of that to bring a little bit of gray. Technically, we're bringing white into it, but it's appearing as gray, but that gives it that faded vintage look. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white balance dropper. This is not scientific at all. I'm just going to kind of balance off of what I think is a neutral color, and it adds this beautiful warmth. And I want to add to that even more, to that warmth. I love it. I think this looks perfect. But I'm going to take under the color grading panel, I'm going to go to highlights here. I'm going to take this dot in the center, and I'm going to bring it out, and I'm going to find kind of like a warmer color here. Then I'm going to press and hold on the shift key, and that's going to lock that color in place. So I can go from 0 to 100. This is basically the saturation or the strength. And so I'm just going to add a little bit more just to give it that really nice warm tone in the highlights. And I'm not going to touch the shadows. Usually I'll apply maybe a cooler tone to the shadows, but I don't want to do that at all here. And so the last thing I'm going to do is just add a tiny bit of clarity and a tiny bit of dehaze. And really that's it. You can see if I press the backslash key, that's the original. But you know, it just has this timeless kind of vintagey look, which I love. I'm also going to add a little bit of a vignette now that I think about it, which I moved up here. Let's bring that amount slider. Let's make it really strong, and let's bring this to the center just so we can darken those edges. But then let's also add a really nice feather to make it a smooth transition. And so now we're looking really good. This to me looks like just like a really great moment in time. I love the contrast of kind of the young boy running through the alley and the older woman just kind of walking across a little bit more slowly. And it's just one of those things that when I travel, it's something I always look for, is to try to be able to find moments in life in areas that are, you know, different to where I'm from. And I think, being able to use technology and software, like in this case, Photoshop, to take two distinct images of the same location just at slightly different times, but combine them together. I don't know. I just think it's wonderful, and it's just an awesome time to be a photographer. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're excited to try out Topaz Photo AI. If you own all three of our image quality bundle apps, so Denoise AI, Sharpen AI, and Gigapixel AI, you can try an early access version of Topaz Photo AI right now. Just go to topazlabs.com, log into your account, and go into the download section, and you should see Topaz Photo AI. Otherwise, it'll be coming out very soon, and we're going to be adding more to it. It's just going to be awesome. So don't forget to read the companion article at the Topaz Labs Learning Center, and I look forward to see you on the next video. Thanks a lot.